So, Matthew, if you don't mind, could you tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey? Tell us about yourself and how you became the director and advisor for the Exterior Group.
Yeah, basically, look, I've been doing this job for about 20 years now. I started sort of working for someone in an advice firm and quickly realized that there's plenty of opportunity out in the marketplace for people to receive advice and get advice. And then eventually I bought the business actually I worked for, which was great. I did that when I was 25. So I really had a very early introduction into running businesses and to be honest, I'm passionate about the business side of things, but also passionate about the advice piece. So, luckily, I've had a pretty much a 20-year journey of owning businesses and giving advice, doing the things that I love. I'm now 45 years of age, and yeah, I'm very happy that this will be what I do for the rest of my life. I think giving advice to people when it comes to helping them with their economic journey is it's a really valuable thing. I think getting people to take control of their economics and their financial goals and lifestyle needs is just it's wonderful to do that and share that journey with people. So yeah, it's something I just look forward to doing now and into the future. Sure. So I was introduced to Bala by two actually very good friends of mine here in Adelaide. I went to high school with them, and they had let me know they'd invested in this startup around called Getmee, and I was just intrigued about it. So they introduced me to Bala. I think it would have been about 2 years ago now, and I'd actually done a little bit of homework on Bala before I'd met him. And I was really just inspired by about, he's obviously had a pretty tough upbringing, coming from Sri Lanka and really coming to a country where he, sounds like he wasn't even able to speak English when he arrived and, and had a tough transition here. So that sort of got me from day one in terms of, he's obviously had a very difficult journey, and he's obviously been successful in other ventures. So for me, I always like to use the phrase, I back the person before the idea. And Bala for me that was just an intriguing sort of precursor to meeting him. So, and then when we started having a conversation around Get Me and what it was actually there to do in helping people to adapt these skills, and the AI aspect of it, that will again be no doubt a forever changing part of the world we live in. I think that's a very scalable business idea, and Bala's view on getting it really established here in Australia, but then taking that concept overseas, and that's basically what he's done. In places like Mexico. So yeah, I think for me it's the aspect of what it's trying to do at its core, but also its scalability. I think is absolutely it's untapped, and yeah, I'm happy to be part of that journey. And it's nice to see Bala sort of get some runs on the board. Obviously, as a shareholder, great to see that. But just for him, just to take that business from what was a fledgling business to what is now, I think, the start of a pretty big journey for him.
Okay, so Matthew, I just have one last question. It is regarding AI, and it is such a huge topic. What are your views on AI and its ability to transform industries?
Yeah, look, I think there's no doubt we've just started the journey of AI. I think it's an inordinately complex um, aspect that I think humans are really grappling with at the moment, and there's no doubt it is going to infiltrate nearly all aspect of our lives over the next 10 to 20 years. I think other areas need to catch up in order to support AI. AI is one thing, but the adoption of AI will take, I think, more time than we actually expect. Humans take time to change their habits. So I think AI will definitely run ahead of the human adoption side of things. And again, we've seen that probably more in valuations, on our side, on the investment side, that AI is the mega trend that is AI has begun. But I think there's going to be a sense of reality checks along the way about practically where does AI get adopted. And I think also humans beginning to understand, uh, and I don't think we've fully grasped this yet, just to what extent it will be part of nearly all aspects of our lives going forwards. And I don't think, again, I haven't fully comprehended to what extent that is yet, but I have no doubt that, whether it's giving an interview or writing music or um, brushing your teeth, I just think it's just going to be just something that, yeah, we haven't fully comprehended yet. But I think that path of change and the rate of change is just going to become exponential. And I think, for me, speaking to Bala about Getmee, it's been a wonderful introduction to that sector in more detail. And it's also helped me on my investment side to understand where AI sits. And yeah, I look at the space with a lot of interest, confusion as well, I must admit. But I think, yeah, I think to ignore AI is at your own peril. I think you need to understand where it sits, not only today, but where it might sit in the future, and how humans, we might benefit from it. AI forms part of underlying assets that we do own, largely indirectly. One thing we tend to see when we have these major changes, major sort of systemic shifts in what we're seeing in the investment landscape, is that you also need to be aware that even though there will be a lot of winners in the AI space, there'll be many more losers. It's probably going to be a space there where only a few will win. And I think that's the most important thing for people to understand, is that not just because you have a great idea doesn't technically mean it will execute into a great, maybe economic outcome. So, we do approach that area with trepidation, with some caution, because ultimately, as I said, it's still early days. Because the landscape is changing so quickly, you need to be, relatively cautious in how you're investing in these areas. So yeah, it's something that, you know, because it is so early, it is very hard to predict who the winners will be. Um, Obviously, there are incumbents in the market today, but we're also seeing a lot of changes going on. And just recently, we talk about DeepSeek out of China in terms of the disruptive nature of that. So again, it's just a good example of, yes, understanding what it is, but also understanding the threats to the industry, and they are going to come very quickly, and you need to learn to be able to adapt through those changes.
Thanks. Thanks, Matthew. That was a great answer. It's so important, right, to have the passion and the skills behind it to make sure that you love your job every day.
Yeah, and look, I'm pretty blessed. I live in an environment where there's a lot of demand for what we do. And you get to meet a whole raft of different people. And I think that's one thing I've really enjoyed about my careers. I've seen it all, heard it all, and it's really helped me, I think, get a lot of perspective about life. And yeah, I have a lot of gratitude for it.
Well, thank you so much, Matthew, for your time today. It was lovely to meet you.